In Lesson 2-4, Day 2, Examples 2 through 4, you will solve equations with grouping symbols and variables on both sides. Our first example is 6 times the quantity 5m minus 3 is equal to 1/3 times the quantity 24m plus 12. You're going to start out by drawing your train tracks as your visual of the two sides. And now, before we do anything, we're going to want to use the distributive property to simplify both sides. 6 times 5m is 30m. And then don't forget, distributive property means you have to multiply everything in the parentheses by the number on the outside. So now we have 6 times a negative 3. 6 times a negative 3 is negative 18, so we're going to put minus 18. Equals. Now 1/3 times 24m means 1/3 of 24m. 1/3 of 24 is 8, so this is going to be 8m. And then 1/3 times 12, or 1/3 of 12, which is 4, so plus 4. Now we end up with an equation that looks like what we were working on the previous day. We have variables on both sides, so you either want to get rid of the 30m or the 8m. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 8m by subtracting 8m to make it so it's 0m. And when I subtract 8m on the other side, I'm going to subtract it from the m's. 30m, take away 8m is 22m. Bring down this minus 18 so it's all on the same line. Equals, now 8m minus 8m, that's going to be 0m. And 0m plus 4 is just 4. Now it's an even simpler equation of 22m minus 18 equals 4. To get the m by itself, I'm going to get rid of the minus 18 by adding 18 to both sides. On the left side, we will still have 22m. The minus 18 plus 18 is 0, and 4 plus 18 is 22. Now the last thing we need to do is divide both sides by 22, so we end up with 1m. When we do that, we end up with m equals 1. Now, if you wanted to check your work for this, you would go back and plug this in on both sides. On the left side, 5 times 1 is 5, and 5 take away 3 is 2, and then 2 times 6 is 12. On the other side, 24 times 1 is 24. 24 plus 12 is 36. And then 1/3 of 36 is also 12. So we know that that right there is the correct answer. You may want to pause the video and try this next one on your own. All right, go ahead and draw your train tracks. We only have distributive property on the right side, so we're going to leave the left side exactly how it is. 8s minus 10 equals, now after doing the distributive property, we have 3 times 6, which is 18, and then 3 times a negative 2s. 3 times a negative 2s is negative 6s. Now we have variables on both sides. We can either get rid of the 8s or the negative 6s. I'm going to get rid of the negative 6s by adding 6s to both sides. 8s plus 6s is 14s. Minus 10 equals, we're left with 18 on the other side. Now to get s alone, we need to get rid of the minus 10 by adding 10 to both sides. The minus 10 plus 10 will disappear, and you'll have 14s on the left is equal to 28 on the right. Now to get just one s, we need to divide by 14. When we divide by 14, we get 1s equals 2. And again, you can check your work by plugging it back in on both sides and seeing if you get the same thing. Now, sometimes some equations have no solution. That is, there's no value of the variable that will result in a true equation. Some equations are true for all values of the variables. These are called identities. We're going to go through and solve a couple special solution equations right now. We'll start with this first one right here. Draw your train tracks. They're going to be solved exactly like the two examples above, but something unique is going to happen, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. On the left, it's going to stay exactly as it is. On the right, we're going to do distributive property right here. 3 times 5x is 15x. 3 times a negative 4 is negative 12. And then we also have a minus 10x. Now, before we actually go through and continue to solve this, we can simplify this side because 15x and a negative 10x can be put together. 15x plus a negative 10x is 5x. So that side really is 5x minus 12. And on the other side, we have 5x plus 5. Now we have variables on both sides, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 5x. Now what happens here, since these are both 5x, it's going to disappear on the left and on the right, and we're left with 5 equals negative 12, because this disappeared and this disappeared. 5 equals negative 12, we know that's not true. This is one of the cases where there is no solution. When you end up with two things that are really not equal, then your answer is going to be no solution. There is nothing that you can plug into this equation for x and have the two sides work out to be the same. All right, our other special one over here on the right. Distributive property first. 3 times 2b is 6b. 3 times a negative 1 is negative 3. And then bring down the minus 7. The right side is going to stay exactly how it is. We can simplify this left side. The negative 3 and negative 7 can be combined together to just be 6b minus 10. And the other side is also 6b minus 10. Now this time, if you go and subtract the 6b from both sides, the 6b's will disappear on both sides and you'll have negative 10 equaling negative 10, which is a true statement. If that happens, this is going to be true for all numbers. It doesn't matter what we plug in for b, we are always going to get something that works out to be equal on both sides. So for the special solution ones, the variable ends up disappearing, and if you end up with a statement that's not true, it's no solution. If you end up with a true statement like negative 10 equals negative 10, then it's all numbers. All right, our last example, find the value of x so that the figures have the same area. Well, remember, to find the area of a rectangle, it's length times width. So the area of this one right here is 10 times x, or 10x. And we want to know when that's going to equal 6 times this side right here. So 6 times 3 plus x. So you're going to want to go ahead and do the distributive property on the right. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times x is 6x. That 6 got a little crazy. Now we have variables on both sides, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract 6x from both sides. 10x take away 6x is 4x. And over here we end up with 18. Divide both sides by 4 now to get 1x. X is going to equal, let's see, 4 goes into 18 4 times with 2 left over. So 4 2/4 or 4 1/2. The correct answer is B.